everyone, I'm Elephants Are Tasty, and I'm here today with kind of like a different type of video, I guess. I don't really know why I decided to talk about this, but I thought it would be an interesting subject, and I've seen a lot of like online posts on Facebook or Tumblr or whatever about this subject, but I couldn't really find anything on YouTube about it. I'm just gonna kind of talk about the subject from my own perspective and how I feel about it. And of course, since you've read the video title and maybe the description, this is just me talking about how anxiety plays a role in Yuri on Ice and how I kind of realized I'm kind of a lot more like Yuri than I first thought myself to be. So I think we can all agree that the biggest antagonist in the show is Yuri's anxiety, and I know that especially like almost up until the very end, I really thought that JJ of all people was like the antagonist of the show because he was the one saying he'd win gold and get married to his fiance instead of Yuri winning and getting married to Victor, all that stuff. But after seeing that JJ is just as vulnerable as anyone else to pressure about the big competition, he has his own anxieties, whatever, like that took the possibility of JJ being the antagonist away from the show. And it was kind of absurd to think him as the antagonist in the first place. And I did realize that Yuri's anxiety was important as well, but just when I saw JJ do so poorly in at the Grand Prix final, the short program, I just it just opened my eyes. Like, I felt so bad for him, and I really cared about him a lot more than I did in the past. So then I had no one to pin the blame on for the evil parts of the show. I really started thinking about how Yuri's anxiety is one of the biggest problems or plot lines, and like the anxiety is the antagonist of the show. So basically, this video is kind of a list of Yuri's anxiety-related moments in episode 1 of Yuri on Ice. I was originally going to make a list of every entire moment of anxiety Yuri has in the entire show, but after doing almost three episodes, and it was a little over 3 pages long, I decided to keep it to 1 episode, or else this video would be an hour long. So I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, whatever, but these are moments that I recognized based on my own experiences or maybe things other people have mentioned about the show. So while I'm not going to professionally diagnose a fictional animated character with some type of mental illness or disorder, I'm just talking about how Yuri's anxiety pops up in the first episode and how I kind of relate to him in a way. I'm not even like diagnosed with anything, but I have my good days and my bad days and my really bad days, and there are just days where I feel like everyone hates me, everyone looks down on me, nobody cares, or like everyone just laughs at me, and those days are pretty awful. And like throughout watching Yuri on Ice, I realized that like Yuri has those days and those times, and it's really important to how he develops as a character. So like I said before, when Yuri on Ice was over, I realized that I was a lot more like Yuri than I had originally thought of, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video. I'm not here to complain about my first world problems. I'm just putting out there. I'm just getting off my chest the things I think about myself, and I'm relating it to Yuri on Ice because the show has become so relatable through the really professional ways certain ideas and concepts are treated throughout the show. So, without further ado, here are about 11 moments of Yuri's anxiety that I noticed in episode 1 of Yuri on Ice. Number 1. Yuri looks at and worries over the news about his failure in the Grand Prix final. It also predicts his season might have been his last, even though his coach tells him not to look at the news. Number 2, he calls himself a dime a dozen skater, even though he acknowledges he's a top skater certified by the JSF. I'm not sure exactly how to word this, but there are times where I've received praise or recognition for something, and I really immediately thought I didn't deserve it. And I guess one example is I used to be in color guard, like marching band, and there was one year where they were doing like awards for everyone. It was just supposed to be a fun thing. And some people were getting funny awards, but then they gave me the award for being the hardest worker on the entire team, and there were about 30 people on the team. And when they said I was the hardest worker, I was like, no. I could immediately think of like 5 to 10 at least people who I admired and looked up to, and I thought they worked so much harder than me, and I didn't deserve an award like that. Like, I was a newcomer. I mean, sure, I practiced and I beat myself up when I messed up, but I did not think I was the hardest worker at all. 3. Yuri feels the need to apologize for his mother for getting last place in the Grand Prix final, even though we later learn that she's a very caring and accepting mother who would never be mad at Yuri for something like that. So when I make mistakes around my family and friends, my family especially, I either like apologize way too much or I just like shut myself down and kind of like implode upon myself. And Yuri does both of those things. While he's in the bathroom in episode 1, he like apologizes to his mom even though he has nothing to apologize for, and then he hangs up on her and begins to like cry all by himself instead of like talking to someone for help. So I guess an example was this past Christmas, which was a couple of weeks ago or a week, I don't even remember. I was having like a decent day, but then it gradually got worse and worse throughout the day as I kept like interacting with and having to be around my family, and I feel very disconnected from my family. They all just seem so normal, and I'm the odd one out. I love technology. I'm on my phone, the internet all the time. I watch YouTube, I watch anime. I know about all that stuff that a lot of my family members don't know about, and then they're an integral part of my personality, and just my family sometimes can't understand that and they think it's weird, and I just feel very distant from them. So there were times during the holiday where I wanted to like implode on myself or just disappear, and like I would attempt to go just like stand in the bathroom for a minute away from everyone else and just like calm myself down, but like sometimes I would just immediately be called back because someone thought I was like ignoring people, so I'd have to be called back into like where everyone was to keep socializing with them, and I didn't want to tell anyone that I was feeling this way because they wouldn't understand, so I just had to like put my head down and just work through it and just try not to explode on everyone. 4. He jokes to his mother about being embarrassed about people watching him on TV, but then he hangs up on his mother after apologizing so she doesn't actually really hear him cry. 5. He is quickly scared by the thought of taking a photo with Victor, his idol, and he turns away and walks away to avoid the situation instead of even saying something like, "No, thank you." When I'm stuck in a situation that's making me anxious or worried and I'm not sure what to do, sometimes I just try to like be silent and avoid the issue and walk away. Like, there have been some times where I've had relationship issues in the past, and there have been situations where I'm uncomfortable or I'm getting anxious about something and I don't know how to verbally express myself, and I'm worried of being judged by the person who I was with at the time. So I tried to run away. I mean, at first I tried to like logically talk it out, but as it became apparent that that wasn't going to happen with the person I was interacting with, I wanted to leave. I didn't want to say anything, I just wanted to leave, and that's one of the worst feelings in the world. 6. Yuri calls himself an idiot for thinking he could meet Victor on a level playing field even though he skated against him before and met him before, etc. 7. Yuri feels like his failure at the GPF, despite his other successes as Japan's top male ice skater, will make him an embarrassment to Hasetsu, and he tries to refrain from interacting with or even just shaking hands with people who have come to congratulate him and meet him. 8. When Minako tells Yuri to go ahead and cheer up Hasetsu, Yuri stops in his tracks and begins to worry. Even though she tells Yuri that everyone's been dying to see him, Yuri still worries that his lack of complete success in his previous ice skating career will make everyone look down on him. He looks visibly anxious about what people will think about him. So I guess I relate to this a lot. Like, when I fail even the slightest bit, I get worried that everyone around me is judging me or just like internally laughing at me or things like that. A couple days ago, as I'm filming this, like the other day, I was ice skating, and which is really fun. I'm getting better at, by the way, so that's good. But I was practicing skating backwards, and at one point I kind of lost my balance and I almost fell, and then it wasn't a big deal now that I look back on it, but at the moment, like when I picked myself up, I looked around, there were like a couple people watching me, and I was just worried that they were, I don't know, judging me for trying something and then failing. So I just tried to skate away and forget about them, and I went to like the other side of the ice skating rink to like keep practicing. But at the moment, I felt like they were all judging me for even just like failing, even though a lot of people around the rink were also falling because they don't know how to professionally ice skate either, but just I felt very alone in that moment. And this happens with my grades as well, and it has for like several years, not just in college, but more recently in college, I took a test and I didn't get the best grade that I was hoping for, and then someone asked me how I did on the test, and I said, oh, I did okay. And then this person was like, oh, okay, I almost got 100. I only missed one question. It's through a dumb mistake. And then they just kind of went on about like how great they did on the test in front of me, and it just feels like they were trying to validate themselves, and that person kind of does it a lot. I know that that person didn't know what my grade was, and I said I did okay, so they had no reason to assume I did bad or whatever, but I didn't want to tell them what I actually get because I would be embarrassed at my failure, and my failure getting the grade I want. Up to this point, all of the things I've said were Yuri anxiety moments. We're just in the first 7.5 minutes of episode 1. 9. It's a small but important detail, but Yuri is even anxious to go in through his own front door when he gets home because he doesn't want any unneeded attention. So number 10 and number 11 kind of melt into one thing, I guess. Yuri admits that after his loss at the Grand Prix final, he was feeling depressed, and it's because later we learn that Yuri hates to lose. He eventually only got his love for skating back through channeling his idol and working on copying Victor's Stay Close to Me program. And while he was away, this is the number 11, I guess, while he was away, Yuri tried to forget a lot of things, including his anxious feelings and anxieties, by just practicing all the time and skating all the time. And this is basically one of his coping mechanisms, is through physical activity. Another one of his coping mechanisms is trying to figure it out by himself, like we saw when he was crying in the bathroom. So everyone obviously has their own coping mechanisms for everything. Like, we all go through hard times in life and we all cope different ways. Personally, I really keep to myself when I feel anxious about something because I don't want to bother my friends. I certainly don't want to talk about it to my family. So there's not really a lot of people I can talk to when I'm feeling these anxious emotions. Thankfully, there are a very select few people that I have been able to talk to, and I know they won't judge me because they've never done it, and I've talked to them, I've known them for several years, and they never judge me. They're always there for me to help, and I greatly appreciate these people. And I've just kind of always preferred to work on things alone and by myself, like even school projects. Like, there's always those memes that go around saying like, you were the only one who worked on your group project, and just like all your group members didn't care. I work fine in groups. It's just if I'm given the option, I prefer to work alone because I don't want to rely on people who can potentially be unreliable. And I mean, that just happened recently. There was a project we were doing at my university, and I was in a group and of 4 people, including me, and 2 of the other people were great, but one person kind of held off their work until the last minute, and so it was kind of uncoordinated when we presented our project. And I was just thinking to myself, like, if I had done this project by myself, I would have gotten it done on time. I would know everything I have to know. I wouldn't have to rely on other people. It's part of my introversion, I guess, but it also connects to how I deal with things. I just want to, like, internally keep it in myself instead of trying to search for help through other people, except, of course, for, like, the few people who I do talk to. So last night, I was actually writing down my, like, script or guidelines for filming this video. Like, I was getting all my ideas down on my handy-dandy laptop, and my dad was in the room, and my dad asked what I was writing, and I didn't know what to say, so I said, oh, I'm just writing stuff, and he's like, what are you writing? I was like, just random stuff, like, it's not important. And then he kept pressing me, and I knew that if I told him I was writing notes about a fictional anime character's, like, symptoms or moments of anxieties, and then comparing his experiences to my own real feelings of anxieties, then my dad just wouldn't understand. He would think it's stupid, and I just didn't want to go through that, so I just kept telling him, I'm writing nothing, it doesn't matter, it's important, it's not important, and eventually my dad just stopped asking, and I felt a lot better. I feel very disconnected from my family, like I said, but I also feel disconnected from my parents sometimes because for example, at the end of the Christmas holiday, like I was talking about earlier, something happened and I really felt like all my family hated me, like, for, like, the 4th time that whole holiday gathering. I just kind of, like, broke with my dad in front of me, and he asked what was wrong, and I said, I feel like my family hates me, and my dad was just like, really, like, you're too sensitive, like, don't worry about it, get a thicker skin. And my dad said that to me, like, several times. And I don't know what it is. Like, am I really being too sensitive? Am I a horrible person? I don't know, but I really feel like my family doesn't like me and I feel disconnected from them, but there's no way for me to connect because I'm just worried about what they would think and say. And something like this happened just a couple days ago as well. I spilled something all over the kitchen table, and I don't know what it is with me and spilling things, but it just really freaks me out when I spill things and it gets everywhere, and I just kind of like set off. I'm like really freaked out, and I almost started to cry, and I was like apologizing a lot to my parents while I was cleaning it up and things like that. And then both my parents thought it was stupid that I was apologizing so much or that I was so worried. And I mean, I know compared to what you watching might think, it really is nothing, just like clean it up and whatever. But like, and even to me thinking about it right now, like it didn't drastically affect my life in any way, but in the moment I felt horrible, and I didn't know how to express that to my parents without me seeming like a way too sensitive idiot. So while I was writing the script for this episode, the guideline script or whatever, I felt really worried. Like, I didn't know how this video would be received, and as I'm filming it, I still don't know how it's going to be received, obviously. But now that I've said all these things, it does feel a lot better to like get it off my chest and get it out there, and hopefully maybe someone out there understands and is in a similar situation. And I just want to know that I sympathize with you. I know how it feels. But now that I said these things, I do feel a lot better. So I just have a couple last points I want to make. So the way anxiety is represented in Yuri on Ice is important, and I'm not going to go into a long like Tumblr spiel about like representation and diversity and mental illness, all that stuff. I'm not going to go into that. But there are a couple things I want to mention. Yuri and his anxieties and his character, they just like grow and develop throughout the entire season, and that's really good character development. He's never magically cured or fixed. He never just like completely shakes off his anxieties and becomes an invincible protagonist, but he definitely grows, and he finds a base of like love and trust in Victor, and it's things like this that people really need. He found someone who meets him where he is emotionally, like he said himself in the show, and Victor doesn't try to make him open up against his will. Finally, like, the show doesn't need an antagonist. Like, JJ is not an antagonist in any means, because Yuri is his own enemy when it comes down to it, and that's just like how life works for a lot of people. Like, we hold ourselves back, and sometimes there's just nothing we feel like we can do because we don't know what to do, we don't know how to do it, and we feel like we have no base, we have no help, support, or anything like that. And like, while the show included like romances and the fight for the Grand Prix final, arguably the most important plot line in the show was how Yuri grew and developed and like worked through his anxieties as like a person and as an athlete, and just how he battled his emotions and didn't let them win. So that's about all I have to say for this video. Sorry I have no background. My lovely Attack on Titan tapestry is in my dorm in New York right now. Finally. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.